March is Epilepsy Awareness Month. This is Riley's story.
Riley had his first seizure, he was 8 months old, and it was one-sided, and I'd never seen. I always thought seizures kind of took over your whole body. So I didn't know what it was at first, but actually thought he was having a stroke, and said we need to call 911. And that was the very first one, not diagnosed until you have another incident. Riley was diagnosed at 12 months when he ended up in a pediatric intensive care unit at London University Hospital. And Riley's diagnosis was status epilepticus right at the get-go, which is certainly not what you want to hear about epilepsy when you're getting a diagnosis. So the original diagnosis was serious from that perspective, that odds are there were going to be more seizures that were challenging to stop. I contacted Epilepsy Niagara myself, and I met with your director at the time, who gave me a ton of information about epilepsy. That was like an education session for me on epilepsy, and gave me a starting point and some support and some normalcy that was particularly helpful at that time. SUDEP is sudden unexplained death in epilepsy. It happens primarily to young men or older teenage males. So to have it happen to a 2-year-old is fairly unheard of, that I'm aware of anyway. But the pediatric neurologist at the time didn't give me any information. So there wasn't really talk about severity. There wasn't talk about he could die. I knew from status epilepticus that there was a possibility that one could die. I did know that, but I had never been told anything about SUDEP.
Alaine has a simple message for parents whose children have been diagnosed with epilepsy.
The best advice that I can give at this stage is that you watch and you write everything. So there are seizure trackers that you can get online now, but you can make up one of your own. But I think that you need to be as educated as possible so that you know what you're looking for, because one individual can present with different seizure types. So Riley himself, I believe, had about 4 different types of seizures. But the doctors, again, they hadn't witnessed the majority of the seizures, so it was more challenging for them. It sounds terrible, but when you can and you know your child or your loved one is in a safe place, it might be worthwhile to turn on your camera and to take some video of the seizure, so that way when you go into your next physician's appointment, you can say, this is how it presents. And I think that then, then they can see it, and we can make sure, because you want to make sure you have the right diagnoses. Anybody that's a caregiver, let's say, you want them to have some information so that they're aware of what to do, when to be concerned, when to call in, if you needed to call 911. But I think you should document everything so that there's opportunity there to determine what might be triggers, what might be lower the threshold for that particular individual, but so that you can get to the doctors the best information for the best diagnosis. It's not about let's make people frightened, it's about let's just make people educated, and then they feel like they can make some positive choices.
If you'd like to learn more about epilepsy and the programs offered in the community, contact Epilepsy Niagara at 905-353-1096 or log on to our website at epilepsyniagara.org.